Welcome CSC 230 class to ex3. Now the first thing we're going to do with ex3 is we're going to create a new folder for ex4. You might say, well, why are we not calling the folder ex3? Because what we're going to do for ex4 is we're going to create HTML page CSS, but what we're going to do for ex3 is simply just making a header image and creating our folder. So we'll just kind of keep that separate. So even though this is ex3, we're going to make a folder called ex4, and you're going to go into your upload folder that you should have on your hard drive of your computer at home, and it's inside your CSC 230 W1 folder, and you should already have your home page CSS. You should already have an images folder. You should already have an index page. That's just for your home page. These exercise files that we're going to work on, they're all going to be in their own enclosed folder. So anything that you have on this page is going to link inside separate folders. That way it'll be easier to organize them, it'll be easier to find your files, and you're going to have an index page inside each folder. So if I go inside upload instructor, this would be upload Smith or whatever your last name is, and if I go inside this folder here, I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm just going to call it ex4. And remember, this is ex3, but the folder's ex4. And just do it all lowercase, no dashes, no underscores, just ex4 lowercase. And that's it. And it's going to be in the same directory as these three other files. One of them's a folder. So they're going to be in their own folder. And then inside this folder, you're going to make another folder called images. And guess what you're going to put in there? Images. We're going to put a header image in there. Now we are also going to have another index page and another CSS page inside here. Now we can do that. You can have multiple index pages within your directory as long as they're in separate folders. This is going to be the main index page that you'll go to when you first type in your name, and then these will be the separate ones. Now I'm going to go to this site first. Remember, this is where your pages are going to be. Some of you have them completed already, your home page. Some of you do not. Looking at last spring, I'll just look at last spring real quick, and I'll look at somebody's page. Here's a student that won't mind us looking at their page. This is what your home page is going to kind of look like. There's a photo of yourself on there, and here's a list of different exercises. Some of these may change from last spring, but that's kind of what you already did for your home page, except you don't have all of these. Your first one that we're going to do, here's the first one, links and lists. It was something like, we're going to do something like this, but it's basically going to have some lists on here, ordered lists with numbers. It's going to have bulleted lists. We're going to put an image on there with a little caption, and then we're also going to do a header image. So for right now, for ex3, what we're going to do is we're going to make a header image. And it may not be the same size. We may make it a little bit deeper so you can work with a little bit more, but we're going to make an image. So there's no graphics on here. There's no text. We're just going to make an image, so you could just find an image of a beautiful place, something you like. It's wintertime. Maybe you're thinking about beaches or farms or vineyards or someplace far away from the snow, or maybe you like mountains and things like that. So whatever it is, that's what we're going to use for our image. So going back to here, I just want to point out that we're going to have an image in there, we're going to have an HTML file, we're going to have CSS for our first exercise 4, but this is exercise 3. What we're going to do is just make our image. So we're going to be making something like that. And to do that, you don't need Photoshop, you don't need anything other than the internet. You could use the internet. We're going to go to pixlr.com, and it's Pixlr, and you might have done that to work on your homepage pic. And when you scroll down here or you click on this little arrow, we could use the Pixlr editor. If you launch the web app, I think it's Flash based. And what we're going to do, now there's nothing to open yet. We're going to open image from URL. That way you don't even have to have an image on your hard drive. You could just find an image on the internet, and you don't even have to download it. So what you can do, I was doing a search here. I just did a search here for beautiful beaches. You could look up beautiful farms. You could look up whatever you want. The size image we're going to work is about 800 wide. It's going to be 800 pixels wide and 240 high. That means when you're looking at images, you want to make sure when you see the sizes that they're probably 800 or higher. They don't always have to be, but you'll find ones. This one's like 2400. So, some of these are pretty high. Here's one that's 1280. So to just give you an example of what we're going to do, I'm just going to click on this. And let's say you want to use this image. What you can do to use this image, you don't have to download it. If you right click on it, you could do copy image address. And again, we're going to bring it into Pixlr. So we're not saving image, we're not copying image, copy image address. That means the URL of this address. So we're going to copy that address. You won't see anything. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go back to Pixlr, and you're going to say open image from URL. The URL is the address. So you're going to go there. Now it may look like you have to highlight this again, but if it's in black, you can just paste. And on Windows, do Control V, on a Mac, do Command V. and then it'll paste in the image address, and if you hit OK, it should open up your image. Now, the image I said I want it to be 800 by 240, 800 pixels wide by 240 pixels high. And you might say, well, I just have to change this in here. Well, you got to be careful, because right now this image is 1280 by 720. Now, we want to keep it in proportion. I don't want you stretching or distorting your images. You can take this right down to 800 if you want. And the way you would do that, in this little image, don't go up here, go into image, and I'm on a Mac right now. If you go to image size, all I'm going to change is the width. And I'll just make the width 800. And whatever the height is, leave it alone. Leave that checked. And I'll hit OK. So now you have an image that's 800, and it's saying it's 450 pixels high, but I'm saying I want it around 240. Now, I'll say this. You could go anywhere between 240 and 300 is fine. You don't have to be exact. I just don't. It's just going to be kind of, wide and not very high. So what I'm going to do in here, I'm going to crop this. I'm not going to shrink it, because then it would squash it. You don't want to go and squash it. You don't want to do this. You don't want to go into image size, uncheck this, and say, oh, well, we need to have it 240. Let me just do this. And then you have it kind of squashed like that. No, actually, that doesn't look that bad, but you don't want to do that. So I'm going to undo that. And what you really want to do is you want to use your crop tool. Up here in Pixlr, it's the first tool. If you click on it, and I already have it 800 wide, so I don't have to go inside of this picture. I'm just even going to start at the top. And as I drag, it makes like a dotted line. I could look over to the right side, and I see the height right now is showing up at around 262. So let's say I want to go down to around 240. Or maybe I even want to be 260. Like I said, anywhere between 240, 300. Maybe I'll go 260. Now, it doesn't matter what I have selected right now, because I can grab this, and because once I draw that selection, I can move this around. So I'm just going to move it down a little. That way I'll get a little bit of the ocean, a little bit of the sky, and that's about the selection that I want right now. Now, to crop it, I'm just going to hit return. And there it is. Now, if I needed to zoom in, there's a little slider over here you could zoom in. There's even a percentage over here. So this isn't 100%, and it won't even 100% wouldn't fit in this little window that I'm working in. But that is the right size. So 800 by 260, that's fine. Let me do one more. I'll show you one more thing. I'm not going to save this yet. Let's say I wanted to go to Italy and see a vineyard. So I'll look up beautiful vineyards. All right, here's beautiful vineyards, and this one over here is really neat looking. I really love all that. I love the sky and all that. It's a really neat image, except it's only like 700 pixels or something it was saying. It's only 700 by 525. And Professor Holmes said it has to be 800. And normally you don't want to scale things up because you'll lose quality, but that's pretty close. So let's say you did want to use this one. You can right click and do copy image address. Remember, you're taking it from the web and you're keeping it on the web. And I'm going to go back to Pixlr. Now, even if you have an image open, you could still do this again. Now, I don't see the window that says open image URL. That's because I have an image open already, but I can go file open image URL. And I could paste, I think I copied, and there it is. Here's another image. So I have two windows open here, and let's say I decided I think I want to use this one instead of the beach. This looks pretty nice, but it's only 700 pixels wide. Well, I could change that. I could go here to image size, keep this checked because you don't want to squash it at all, and I'll just put in 800, and it'll enlarge it a little bit. You don't want to enlarge it a lot. You don't want to take images and make real small images bigger, but you can enlarge it a little bit. 700 to 800 is not real bad. So I'm going to hit OK. And then also now I'm going to crop it. Now I'll zoom out a little so I can see where it ends. And I'll zoom out just a little bit more to see the edges of that. I'm going to take my crop tool and I'm just going to stretch it across the page. And it's in my selection right now. As I move it, I can see it's changing. It's like 260, 270. I could even take it up to like 279. Now it's not exactly, it's saying 798, 279. Now it's not showing, I really want it like 800 and 280. I like even numbers, especially when you're working on a web page, because there's other elements of the web page that might be that size. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit return or hit enter and crop it. Now if you want to tweak it a little, you could go back to image size and just say, well, and uncheck this, because it may not, if you want to make this one 800, you could put 800, and then if you want to make this one 280, you could make that 280. You could cheat a little bit, and you won't know any difference of this being distorted. So now it's 800 by 280. Like I said, anywhere 800 from like 240 to 300 is probably fine. So I like this image a little bit better than the other image. This image in the back of the beach, I'm gonna close that. and I'm not going to save it. But this image here, I'm going to save it. I'm going to use this for my header. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go File. Now, not the file up here in your browser, the file down here in the little editor window, and I'm going to go to File, Save. And for a name, you're just going to call it, remember, this is ex3, but you're going to call this ex4 because that's the folder it's going to be in. It's going to be ex4-header. Call it ex4-header, and all lowercase. Don't put any capital letters in there. Don't put any spaces in there. We're just going to put a dash between ex4 and header, and leave the quality at 80. Don't put any extension on because the extension will get added once you save it. So just hit OK, and it's not asking you where to save it yet. It will once you hit OK. So hit OK, and it just happens to be going right here at the moment, and it's called ex4 header, and it's putting the JPEG on. It's putting the extension on. And if you're in Windows, sometimes it won't, but I'll recommend in Windows that you put your extensions on, and I'll have a video on how to do that. But anyway, we're going to call this ex4-header.jpg, and it's going to go in my images, so make sure you go in your images folder, because that's where it's going to get saved for your ex4. So I'm in Upload with your last name, ex4 images. That's where I'm going to save it, and that's where it's going to go right now. So it's already saved, so I can close this up. I now have an image. Do you want to save the image before closing? We already saved it, so I don't have to close it again. And I can get out of here. So that was the step. So again, search for something. Just to review, you're going to search for something, whatever it is, beautiful farms, whatever you want to look at, deserts, oceans, rivers, lakes, whatever mountains, whatever you like. You're going to try to find an image that's at least more than 800, and then you're going to make it kind of a short, wide image that's 800 wide by 240, or anywhere from 240 to 300, and then you're going to save it as a JPEG, and then when you're done, it's going to be in your ex4 folder. The only thing you're going to have in your ex4 folder is going to be images, and inside images is going to be your ex4 header. And then when it comes time to upload this, you're just going to drag your ex4 header up into your upload last name folder that's with CyberDuck. So you don't have to do anything with this right now because you're going to do some more work. That we're going to start the next exercise for ex4 right away. But the first thing you're going to do is get your image in there so you could start working with it, and we could start building our web page for ex4. So this was ex3. This was HeaderPic. Shouldn't take long. Just a real quick one.